Okay, guys, this is the fiction passage that you will read tomorrow for your Unit 1 assessment. This is the prologue. It is taken from the historical fiction novel The Last Silk Dress by Anne Rinaldi, which, side note, is one of my favorite books from my youth, so you should probably read it. Okay. Prologue. Whenever I think of my father, which is very often, I remember that day of the riot at Tredegar Ironworks, and I think of the way he got hit with the rock and how his face bled. That is the memory that will always come to my mind first, I suppose, when I think of my father. For me, that was the moment the war started. Oh, I didn't know it then. I was at Tredegar for an outing that bright, warm 13th of April, 1861. Sumter had been fired upon the day before, and my father had come home for his noon meal and said that Mr. Anderson, who owned part of Tredegar Ironworks, was organizing a demonstration, and I'd begged to be allowed to go back with him. So he took me. It was only to be a parade after all, but I can close my eyes and in a moment hear the ugly chanting of the mob as it came down the street. It was supposed to be an orderly procession, but the people were already loudly disorganized. They were singing the Marseillaise. It was angry singing, and the crowd lunged forward as if borne on hundreds of caterpillar legs. "Secession!" they were yelling. "We want secession!" They made a chant of it, and it echoed off the buildings of Tredegar. For a full 3 minutes they chanted, as Mr. Anderson held up both arms to quiet them. "We're not listening to any speeches," a man from the middle of the mob yelled. "We've waited long enough. The Confederacy is being formed. We want to be part of it. On to the Capitol," someone yelled. And the cry was taken up like a banner. The crowd surged forward, bumping against the platform, which shook under me. In the next moment, some of the people were rushing across it, and now it trembled and creaked under their weight. I was pushed backward against the front of the building, and for a moment I thought, I'm going to be crushed. I am going to be trampled to death. "Watch out, little girl," someone yelled in my ear. My bonnet strings were pulled roughly, and the bonnet yanked off my head. I heard a rip and looked down to see my dress torn near the hem. I am going to be killed, I thought. "The flag!" someone was yelling. "Tear it down! The stars and bars!" the crowd was yelling. "Raise the stars and bars!" The crowd slowed in its mad stampede to look up as the stars and bars, the new flag of the Confederacy, was raised above the front doors of Tredegar Ironworks. I took advantage of the lull to rush to my father. I felt his warm, strong hand in mine, saw the tears in his eyes as he too looked up to see the stars and bars floating in the fine April breeze. The crowd cheered lustily. Hats were flung in the air, and the stars and stripes hurtled gently to the ground. It landed a few feet away from us on the platform. And then it happened. My father released my hand and went over to pick up the stars and stripes. And as he did, the rock hit him. I saw him get up with the flag under his arm, saw him reel from the blow, saw the rock hit the platform, and then watched in horror as the blood trickled from the side of his face. Upstairs in his office, he held the handkerchief to his face. "I never should have brought you. I told Joe it might turn out like this. He wanted to cause excitement among the people," he said. "Well, he's got all the excitement he can handle now." He sighed heavily. "I want to talk to you, Susan. Sit down." He looked so serious, I sat. "If a man raises his hand against the Constitution of the United States, he is not a reliable man, Susan," he said, "and he will not be a reliable man for any other government. Do you understand?" I didn't, but I lied and said yes. I wanted to understand his anguish because I knew that whatever was bothering him today was important to him. "There is strength in the Union, Susan. We were a band of brothers before this. Now we're just a band. We're leaving the Union, Susan. Virginia is leaving the Union. What you've heard is it's a revolution like we had back in 1776. Isn't it?" "I don't know, Susan. I don't know what it is. I may never know. All I am sure of is that it's wrong to break up the Union, and I haven't figured out yet how I shall tear off parts of myself and say this part is for America and this part is for Virginia. He looked so sad that I wished Fort Sumter had never been fired upon by the South. I wish the whole thing had never started. Your brother is an abolitionist. He doesn't believe in slavery. Did I ever tell you that, Susan? You never told me anything about him, Daddy, but you had an awful fight with him. I remember you were shouting at each other a long time ago when I was about 7, and then he left. Yeah, he left. He sighed deeply. Daddy, are you sure you're all right? I'm as all right as a man can be, just having seen the flag of his country torn down. Look, I'm going to confide in you. I think we're on a fool's errand here in the South with this war, Susan. My heart is with the Union, but this is the only time you'll hear me say it. When we walk out of this office today, I am a true Southerner. Does that seem hypocritical to you? You could never be hypocritical, Daddy. Listen to me carefully, Susan. If the time ever comes, and you'll know it when it does, do what you think is right, even if it hurts those around you, those you love. That is the most difficult thing we must ever learn to do. When your brother left, it was because of something I did to please your mother. We can't do things to please others, Susan, not if we don't think what we're doing is right. Now do you understand? Whenever I remember my father, I think of how he was that day at the Tredegar Iron Works, the day after the war started when he got hit with the rock picking up the American flag, the day he told me to do what I thought in my heart was right when the time came that I must do it, even though it hurt those I loved. That, I think, is how I shall always remember him. That's it, guys.